Yesterday, the rain today. The Yankees didn't get to play today, did they? Okay. They won? Well, we want to thank all of you for coming out, the men and women of the police department that are here, in particular, from different precincts. And we wanted to thank our police commissioner who's here with us today. Please give him a round of applause. Commissioner O'Neill. I asked the commissioner, I invited him to come here. We wanted to make sure that he heard from you, from the community, that I heard from you, and that he brought the men and women of the force here, as well as Bishop. Where's the bishop? Bishop is standing over there to the right of the Father. Okay, and ask you all to come here so we could begin an effort, right, to make the neighborhood safe, even safer. I know that the numbers have dropped, crime has been down citywide, but there's always room for improvement. And I think this is a neighborhood where we can see maybe a little bit more, a little push harder for quality of life crimes, other crimes that are plaguing the community. Yo quise invitar al comisionado aquí para que escuchara de ustedes y también para ver cómo nosotros comenzamos a trabajar junto con el obispo Janet, con quien yo hablé, que yo sé que tiene mucho tiempo aquí luchando contra el crimen y la violencia y la droga. Give him a round of applause. I heard about what you're doing over here, Bishop. The bishop is he's a tough cookie. He was trained in Janico, Dominican Republic. And so I'm glad that you're all here, and let me just introduce, before we hear from the bishop, let me introduce some of the folks that are here. To my left, of course, is our district attorney, Darcel Clark is right here with us, our district attorney, la fiscal del Bronx. La fiscal del Bronx, Darcel Clark. So they arrest the bad guy, she puts him in jail. Right? It's very simple, it's not complicated. Ellos lo arrestan, ella lo tranca. And of course, we have, well, this guy comes from the 34th precinct. We call him our own over there because he's somebody that worked very closely with me when I didn't have any gray hair and I was maybe 20 pounds lighter. I had a thick mustache, right? And he is, of course, our commissioner, our chief, Monahan, the chief of patrol, Monahan. Chief of the department, I'm sorry, I get these titles mixed up. Please excuse me if I call Pichardo Sergeant Pichardo. Because I think I met him when he was a sergeant, right? Well, he's now a chief, okay? And we're very proud of him. And we have also Deputy Inspector Peter Fiorillo. He's here with us today. Bronx Borough Commander Chief Larry Nikonen. This is Espaillat talking to you, so the Bronx is probably the only place where you can pronounce Espaillat and what? Nikonen? Okay. Nikonen. Okay, I'm sorry. We also have Assistant Chief Jason Wilcox, another great member of the Northern Manhattan community. We have also Lorenzo Johnson, who's an inspector in narcotics, Bronx Borough Narcotics. Lorenzo, thank you for being here with us today. Okay, we have also Fronido from the New York Dominican Officers Organization, Raisa Galvez. I thought she gets ahead of all the chiefs and everything. She wanted to take a star away from Pichardo. We have Sergeant Tiffany Batista. Oh, that's because Anady Batista. That's probably like a cousin or something. No nepotism here. Okay, Wilson Maramboles, another 33rd precinct alumni. He's over here. Richard Brea, also a good police officer. Richard Brea is working with us today. Captain Richard Brea. Chief Ruel Stevenson of Housing is here with us. And of course, our very own Chief Fausto Pichardo, Chief of Patrol. We have Deputy Inspector Terrence O'Toole. We have also Michael, this is another tongue twister, Shugrud? Okay, there he is, Michael, CO, PSA 6. Okay, let me see if I missed anybody. Okay, oh, well, I think I got everybody here. Oh, I forgot to borrow president. Shoot, I'm gonna have to pay a toll when I cross the bridge to the Bronx now. Or is it congestion pricing? Which is it? Okay. Okay, we have our borough president, Rubén Díaz Jr. Okay. Our state senator. Claro, dilo tú, güey. Gustavo Rivera. He thinks I forgot, right? He gave me such a hard time when I was up in the Senate. He think I would forget his name. And the young man in the corner, what's his name? Victor Pichardo. Assemblyman Victor Pichardo. Okay, so thank you all for being here. We also have some of the leaders from the community, right? We have Myrna Calderon from Fordham Hill. Over, Myrna, thank you for coming over. Okay, Elizabeth Townsend from Kingsbridge Heights Neighborhood Association. We have Harold Camel from the Amalgamated, where's he? I saw him earlier, there he is. And Jorge Catro from Amalgamated too, retired sergeant. Welcome, Jorge. Okay, let me see. Diana Blackwell, president of PSA 6 Community Council. Wilson Arambolas, Peter Foriello, I already mentioned him, and Terry Monahan. Okay, I think I got everybody. So now let's hear from the bishop, okay? This is his church, his establishment. We know that he's been fighting, el obispo ha estado luchando por mucho tiempo contra el crimen aquí. He's been fighting against crime right here in this neighborhood. And I cut my teeth in the 34th Precinct Community Council, and we were able to see crime go down so sharp down there that now it's like sexy to live in Washington Heights. You can walk out at any time. Still got challenges, but we want to work with the bishop to ensure that crime continues to come down here even further. Queremos trabajar con el obispo para asegurar que el crimen siga bajando. So please, welcome our bishop from this particular parish, and Bishop John Jenick. Please come forward.
Thank you. I don't have much to say. I never have much to say. And I just remember the commissioner way back when, and everybody loved him because he was on top of what was going on in the precinct. And then all of a sudden, one day, he was changed. And we really felt that it was serious for us because we didn't know who was going to come in after him. And little by little, somebody took his place, and we continued. And the meetings that we had were fantastic when he was at them. I remember one time they were shooting guns off the roof across from where I live. And one night, somebody shot right through the window, and I only found it a week later. I looked at the curtains and I said, there's a hole in the curtain. So I looked at the hole, and then I looked that way, and I see another hole. And the bullet had gone right through in front of a chair, that if anybody was sitting in the chair, their head would have blown right off. So he was excellent, and he's even much better now in his new job. So I think he's fantastic. He has always been fantastic. Let's give him a...
Thank you, Bishop. Quick and painless, like a root canal. No. And now thank you so much. Assemblyman José Rivera, who's here with us today as well. Where is he? Please come join us, Assemblyman. There he is. Okay. And Brenda Caldwell Paris, the 52nd Precinct Community Council President. Brenda. Okay. Now let's hear from, we're going to hear from several of us, and then most importantly, we're going to hear from you. Nosotros vamos a escuchar de varios de los oficiales electos. They're going to be brief. The commissioner is going to be timing them. And then most importantly, we're going to hear from you. Vamos a escuchar de ellos. Ellos van a ser breves y entonces vamos a escuchar las preguntas que ustedes tengan, las sugerencias del público hacia el comisionado. Let's hear from our Borough President, Rubén Díaz Jr., please.
So good evening, everyone. First of all, let me just say, Bishop Janik, thank you for hosting us here tonight. I often say that Bronx is God's country, not because we have forestry and woods, but because God's work is happening here every day, and you exemplify that. Let's give the bishop a strong round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, Adriano Espaillat has been working so hard in Washington, D.C. You could only imagine the things that he has to deal with. And the fact that not only is he there making sure that we have a voice in Congress, that we push back against certain things coming out of the White House, he also has the energy, the foresight, and the focus to make sure that he takes care of home base and bringing us all here together. That's why, you know, while some people are speaking of building walls, we believe in bridges, and there's a new bridge between the Bronx and Manhattan, and that bridge's name is Espaillat. Let's give him a strong round of applause. The Bronx, we're not perfect, even though I think we're perfect. We still have a long way to go. We've done well, better than ever, on economic development, job creation, housing, and we still have a lot of work to do. That's why we all continue to lend our voices in forums like this. But it all begins with making sure that communities are safer. The safety of a community is the reason why tourism is up, why we've seen job creation goes up, why we've seen more housing and more interest in our borough. And so to all of the men and women here tonight in blue, let's give them a strong round of applause for making our borough safer. On the Commissioner, you and Monahan and Chief McEwen and all of the brass here today, we want to thank you for not only making the city safer, but also for having a focus in our borough. And we want to thank you because you're doing it in a way where we've seen stop and frisk go down. Naysayers said you couldn't do it. Stop and frisk have gone down. The community and the police are working closer together. We are safer than ever, and tonight exemplifies that even when we know we have ways to go and there's more to have a conversation, we can do it in a civil fashion. And so once again, we want to thank the congressman for putting us together, and we also want to thank our district attorney for being fierce and fair. Ladies and gentlemen, our Bronx District Attorney, Garcelle Clark. Adriano, te queremos. Gracias por ser el gran campeón y luchador, y gracias por este gran evento esta noche.
Thank you, Borough President. Gracias al presidente del condado. We want to welcome Tony Edwards, who's the president of the Marble Hill Tenant Association also. You all going to have, y si quieren hacer una pregunta, pueden llenar estos formularios para yo leer la pregunta, ¿verdad? ¿Quién tiene los formularios? Allí está Céspedes. Con los formularios se lo pueden pedir para hacer la pregunta. If you want to ask a question, you can get one of those sheets and write your question down, because these are going to be about questions and answers, not like long speeches or, you know, statements, but problem-solving efforts. Now let's go to our next speaker, who is our district attorney, Garcelle Clark, who's here with us today. Say a couple of words for us, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure for being here. Congressman, thank you again for hosting this. This is so important that the community know that they can reach out to their congressman, that person who stands in the gap for us down in Washington, D.C. each and every day, fighting for the things that matter for people of the Bronx. So thank you so much for all that you do. Thank you to all the men and women from NYPD, from the commissioner all the way down, all the brasses here. You see the blue jackets across the room, the community affairs officers, the NCOs. This is so important that you get a chance to meet these individuals when you're not in a stressful situation. You know, people always talk about the police until they need one. And it's good to be able to interact with them on a one-to-one basis without there being a crisis or concern, but just to get to know the people that help keep the borough safe each and every day. So to all of you, Commissioner O'Neill, Chief Monahan, Chief McCunin, Chief Wilcox, all of you that are here from NYPD, thank you for the work that you do each and every day for the people of the Bronx. And Bishop Janik, of course, I want to say thank you to you. You have been a stalwart in this community for so long, for decades, just caring each and every day for your parishioners and for the community. And thank you for always keeping your doors open, because when there's nowhere else to go, the church is always here for you, for people in the community, and God is always here for you. So you have a partner in Bishop Janik. Thank you so much for what you do. Look, as the DA, my job, of course, is public safety, and we do it in so many ways. We fight it on two fronts in the DA's office. One, by prosecuting those individuals that bring harm to our communities, but at the same time, joining with you, the members of the community, to educate you and to teach you about prevention of crimes. That's so important. So my job is twofold. I was here 2 years ago when there was just a big gang takedown in this neighborhood, and the police department called the town hall together to get the community together to understand what happened and to find out what resources you needed in order to fill the voids that happened. And again, Bishop Janik opened his doors for us. And this particular crew that frequented this neighborhood, the 9-4 crew, was running rampant all throughout 194th Street, Webster Avenue, Valentine Avenue. A lot of blood gang members. And we charged them with a number of crimes, including 4 homicides, 5 stabbings, a couple of other non-fatal shootings. And it's important that we were able to gain the intelligence that we did from members of the community, as well as the hard work that the police department brought to us. Oh, okay.
La fiscal dice que ella ha trabajado fuerte, quiere felicitar al obispo por el trabajo que ha hecho aquí, que ella trabajó fuerte para asegurar que pandillas que estaban en Valentine, en esta área de por aquí, fueran arrestadas. Trabajaron junto con la comunidad y con el departamento para asegurar que esas pandillas que eran muy violentas, que estaban por este vecindario, un gran número de ellos fueran arrestados.
Thank you. And so we dealt with that gang, and we have them in Rikers Island, which I'm also in charge of prosecuting the crimes that happened there. And they were still trying to run the gang from Rikers Island. So it's important that we continue to work, even after they're off the streets, to make sure that they don't continue to commit these crimes in our neighborhood.
Dice ella que después que fueron arrestados y se encuentran en Rikers Island, pero que de la misma prisión estaban ellos todavía tratando de manejar su crimen aquí afuera en las calles, y es importante que se siga trabajando aún cuando ellos estén ya encarcelados, para asegurarles que ellos no sigan en las calles con otras personas manipulando la situación.
And lastly, I just want to talk about the opioid problem that is prevalent in our community. It's been a long time problem, but in my office we're working each and every day to combat it. That's by locking up those big drug dealers that are pushing the heroin into our communities, but at the same time, not prosecuting people who are addicted, but connecting them to treatment each and every day. So those are some of the things that I'm doing in the DA's office. We're doing a lot more things, child safety affairs and other things of that nature, to connect the community with the DA's office and the police so that we can continue to make the community safe. So thank you for having me, and if there's any questions, I'll be here for that.
Ella dice también que está trabajando con la crisis de opioides y que asegurando que esas personas que son adictos no son necesariamente encarcelados, pero que le llegue el tratamiento que ellos necesiten, y que quiere seguir trabajando con ustedes. Las personas que no hablan inglés pueden pedir un audífono para que puedan recibir la traducción simultánea. We have a simultaneous translation. Las personas que no hablan inglés, levanten su mano para que Céspedes le pueda llevar los audífonos, así máximo que es el traductor. Congress is good, right? It gives you simultaneous translation. Anyway, so now let's hear from our great State Senator Gustavo Rivera.
Thank you, Adriano. Gracias, Adriano. Good evening to everyone. I will certainly be brief because I want to make sure that we get to you. Certainly, I want to thank the bishop as well as the attorney, as the district attorney, the Adriano as well, the chief, the commissioner, for all being here. It is incredibly important that we have these types of conversations. Primero que nada, voy a ser muy corto, voy a hablar rápidamente. Agradecerle al obispo, agradecerle a la DA, al congresista, al comisionado, etcétera, porque estas conversaciones son importantes para tener. We have some challenges in our community, even though, as we said already, as the borough president said, as the congress member said, we are a little safer. It is important that we talk about some of the challenges that we have, there are all sorts of scams that are still out there. There's mail phishing, check washing, identity theft, credit card scams, and violence in our streets. We want to make sure that we deal with them. Tenemos una cosa, aunque sí estamos más seguros en nuestras comunidades, tenemos todavía cosas con las que tenemos que bregar. Tenemos, por ejemplo, diferentes scams, gente que lo quiere coger a nosotros de zángano, ¿verdad? Que anda de tarjetas de crédito, de correo, etcétera. Y también tenemos violencia en nuestras calles que queremos estar seguros que las minimicemos. So, but most of all, I want to thank all of you for being here. The fact that you are here is important. This type of conversation between the community and the police department and our elected officials is important so that we are safer and better as a community. So I'm certainly thankful for all of you. Te agradezco a todos ustedes que estén aquí, porque estas conversaciones que tenemos entre la oficina de la policía, de esta comunidad, los oficiales electos, es increíblemente importante para que estemos seguros. And lastly, I would just say that yes, Adriano is doing a great job in Congress, but I am sure that he missed us. We finished our budget just last week, and we finished it at 2 a.m. on Friday morning. And I know that Adriano wanted to be there. Didn't you want to be there? You wanted to be there. Nosotros terminamos el presupuesto a las 2 de la mañana el viernes, y yo sé que este señor nos extrañó. Mientras él estaba durmiendo y pensando en los angelitos, estábamos nosotros todavía trabajando. Pero extrañamos a él, but we miss him over there, but I'm very glad that he's doing the work that he's doing. Thank you, Congressmember, for setting this up. Muchas gracias a todos ustedes por estar aquí. Thank you.
Gustavo, we're going to hear from the commissioner soon. Remember, fill out these forms if you have a question. Céspedes, where's Céspedes? Los formularios, si tienen una pregunta, por favor, Jenny, enseña los formularios. Pueden llenar los formularios. Miren a Jenny ahí, más formularios. David, you got any of those forms? David también tiene ahí. Miren, if you have questions, a lot of questions coming in, so that we ask the commissioner. Let's finish with our last elected official, our young man who's doing a great job here in the Bronx, Assemblyman Victor Pichardo.
Thank you, sir. So, I just want to make sure that there's plenty of time for Q&A, so I just simply want to be brief. To the NYPD brass, to the commissioner, to the chiefs, to my colleagues in the legislature, to the borough president, to the congressman, to the DA, thank you for putting this event together. It's really important, particularly in this day and age when people are thinking about security and being safe in our churches, in our schools, and again, from predatory practices that affect us. It doesn't matter if you are the chief of police or a regular person on the street. Sometimes scams come and attack us, and it doesn't matter, what you do in life or who you are in life. So again, I want to thank the commissioner and the folks on the dais for putting this event together. And I hope that everybody finds this instructive and enjoys this evening. Thank you. Okay. Rápidamente en español. Simplemente le quiero dar las gracias al comisionado, al fiscal general del procurador general de Bronx, mis colegas en la estatura legislativa, el congresista Espaillat, y todas las personas que están participando hoy en día en este foro. Primeramente, le queremos hablar sobre lo que está sucediendo hoy en día en nuestro país, pero más que nada para que ustedes tengan la oportunidad de tener preguntas y se toman ventaja de este evento, porque estamos aquí para servir a ustedes. Eso es todo. Gracias por participar hoy en día y que Dios lo bendiga.
Thank you, Victor. We want to welcome Captain Soto, the CO for the 30th Precinct. Captain Soto is here. Welcome, Captain. And also Adelaide Santiago, the Chair of Community Board Center. Where's Adelaide? Oh, there she is. We took a nice tour of the neighborhood of the business district. So now please help me to welcome someone that's doing a great job in bringing crime down. Many people think that crime cannot go further down in the city of New York because it's low. It's one of the biggest, safest city, perhaps in the state, if not the world, but it continues to drop. And that has to do because of leadership. I believe in leadership. And the leader of the police department is none other than our commissioner, Commissioner James O'Neill. Please welcome him.
Anyone stand behind the table? Before I start, I just want to recognize the 2 rows of police officers in the back. Would you stand up? They hate that. Okay, you sit back down. And that just goes to the spirit of who they are. They took these jobs to make a difference and to do good, and they do each and every day. Congressman, thank you for the accolades for Terry and myself and all the brass. We like to think we played a decent part in crime reduction, but the men and women that go out there every day are the ones that deserve the applause. I mean, they're out there working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're missing birthdays, they're missing holidays. A lot of them probably had to work on Easter. So I took this job in January of 1983. And believe it or not, I spent a lot of time going up and down the concourse. I was a transit cop back then. I worked in District 11, which is at 161st River. So I had a good feel for this neighborhood, for the 4-0, the 4-4, the 4-6, and the 5-2. I know the area well. And Bishop Janik and I met back in probably January or February of 1998. And I wasn't the CO, I was the executive officer of the 5-2. And I think he was the deputy inspector at the time. Kenny McGrath was the CO of the 5-2. And Bishop Janik, then Father Janik, used to give him such a hard time that he finally got sick of coming to the meetings and he made me go. But what you did, Bishop, was you made a difference and you continue to make a difference. In the police department, we like to think that we know what's going on everywhere in New York City, and I think we have a fairly good idea. But the only way we're truly going to make this crime go down even further is working with people like Bishop Janik and working with all of you. And I know it's 8 o'clock on a Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday, right? Sometimes we lose track of the days. But you chose to be here. And that makes a difference. That makes a difference to us. And it's good for the police officers, especially the police officers in the back, to see that. How much you care about where you live and where you work. Because if we're going to continue to push crime down, and it's a lot different than it was in 1998. It certainly is. I remember one night as the XO. I was working midnight, and we had 3 shootings in one night, just in the 5-2. And I think Pete, who's the CO, Pete Fierwell, I think he's had 4 shootings so far this year. That's in a 3-month period, they've had 4 shootings. And I remember back in 1998 having 3 shootings in one night. And again, we don't make all this progress by accident. It's a lot of hard work. By you, by the DA's office, by Garcelle's office, by all the federal agencies that help us, whether it's the FBI, the DEA, the ATF, the U.S. Marshal Service, in the Eastern and the Southern District. But most importantly, it's got to be you. If we're going to keep pushing this crime down, and I know there's a lot of quality of life concerns. I spent it's reminding us of the good old days. my guys are 29 and 25, and they don't cry like this too much, only every once in a while. But if we're going to continue to push crime down, it's got to be all of us coming together. And that's why we went into the neighborhood policing model. Like the 5-2's been up and running as of tomorrow, I think it's 2 years. So you have the same cops in the same sectors every day. You have the 2 NCOs in each sector. And if you have a business, if you're in a church, or even if you just live in that sector, you should get to know the NCOs. You know, a lot of the NCOs have been doing this for a long time. And this is transformational for them. This is changing the way they do business. You know, for a long time, it was chasing 911 jobs, it was writing summonses, it was locking people up, and then we've asked them to do something different. Get out there and get to know the people you sworn to protect and serve. You can't know everybody. The sectors are big. But at least have the opportunity to meet a cop and give them the opportunity to meet you. Because we all have one thing in common. That's we want to live a good life. We want to be safe. We want to take care of our families. And make sure that we're as happy as we can be. And the only way we do that, and that starts with public safety. And in quality of life, I was a precinct commander for a long time, for almost just about 6.5 years. I started out in a park in some other borough, far from here, Central Park. Then I went up to East Harlem in a 2-5. Then I came up to the Bronx. I came up to the 4-4. And I was there for 2 years. It's a busy place. It's as busy as the 5-2. It's as busy as the 4-3. 150,000 people live in 1.9 square miles with 300 cops. You better get along if you're going to continue to make life better. And that's, as a precinct commander, that's what your job is. Bottom line is to make the people that live and work in your precinct make their lives better. And you better address quality of life concerns. And I saw some of the questions, and they're good questions. I'm going to get to as many as we can. And if it's about a particular block or a particular condition, I'm probably not going to be able to answer it. So I'm going to have the precinct commander or the detective commander answer, or the narcotics commander or the housing commander to answer those questions. But thank you for being here. It really shows the men and women in the back and the men and women up here that you care about where you live. And we're going to continue to make the city safer. And again, for the 3rd time, the only way we can do that is to do that with you. So prior to neighborhood policing, the men and women that worked in the 5-2, if they were in sector cars, that's all they did all night long. They were running from job to job to job to job. And on a busy night, 20 to 25 911 jobs, 1 police car. Never had the opportunity to make a connection to anyone. And if you worked in SNU, which is low-level drug activity, if you worked in domestic violence recap, or if you worked in traffic or school, that's all you did. But now they have the opportunity to make that connection. They're not running from job to job all day long, so please take advantage of it. So at this point, I'd like to start with the questions. I don't know if you want me to read them, or if you want to read them, or you like this. Okay. The really hard questions I'm going to give to the Chief Monahan. So, I'm not going to read the names of who's asking the questions, but we were promised increased police patrols due to the shelter at 233 Landing Road. What is happening to address that issue? Is that the 5-2 or the 4-6? 5-2, Pete?
Right now, it's been up since December. We have 200 beds in there right now. We have our NCOs. We have our NCOs definitely in contact with the security there, run by DHS. I believe there's 34 cameras on the outside that they are also doing their job in their part. They have direct contact with our NCOs in our 7 sectors, as well as my telephone number if they need any help. That's how we're getting into it. Right now, I'm happy to say I do have an incident, and it's only one incident since they've been open. We had an arrest with it. It was closed very quickly, but right now we don't see any problems with Foro Landing as of right now.
Pete, don't go away, because it looks like a lot of these questions are for you. Being that we're in the 5-2.
Ella estaba hablando del 52 de Fort Hills, que abrió un men's shelter, un albergue de hombres ahí, y se le está pidiendo más atención a la policía y el comandante del recinto. Dice que ellos ya han hecho un arresto de un incidente, pero que ellos están vigilando la situación.
Everybody hear me okay? Good. All right, so this is the next question. Why don't we have a steady, permanent police presence in our area? Besides having a patrol car and several officers on 194 and bridge, sometimes we see a lot of police activity only when there's a shooting. And this happens often. But after a few days, we don't see them anymore. So, I don't know if you want to talk about it, or if the NCOs want to talk about it. Got it?
194th Street. You hit it right on the head. It is a problematic spot. There is a fix to it 24 hours a day. Face to face doesn't go away. Why? Because it seems to be the rivalry ground of two groups who happen to be fighting. Some of the leftover, like the district attorney said, from the 9-4 group. There's another group across the concourse still. Now, to combat that, there is a greater police presence there. We broke down that sector to 3 different tri-sectors, which is with our excess, we use a sector car for each sector to control that. Most of our activity is in and around that area. Last year, we had 39 incidents involving these 3 crews, 4 of them were shootings within those incidents. We've made 64 arrests with those 39 incidents, and we made another 39 more in a gang that we did ourselves. We did a little bit of zero tolerance. So there is an increased police presence within that area of 194, and you'll always find the cop on 194th Street, for example.
All right, thanks, Pete. And just before I get to the next question, I want to give Chief Monahan the opportunity to talk about Build the Block. Terry, you want to talk about Build the Block? You thought he was going to sit there and not say anything?
Yeah. You told me to grab somewhere. One of the things we're doing again, I think you also stood up and back. It's great that you have us here. It's great to have the commissioner, myself, the chief McEwen. But to handle the day-to-day problems, you need to get to know that officer, that NCO, that steady sector that's going to be out there every day. So we're running meetings once a quarter. The NCOs are going to set up their own meeting, and it's a meeting that we don't come to. No bosses show up to that meeting. That's a cop. That's a cop that's out there every day, sitting down with the community members and discussing one-on-one. So you have your NCO from 194 and Briggs. You're in that area. You sit down and you discuss what's going on there, and you work on solutions together. If you want to know when your next meeting is, we have a website. The website is buildtheblock.nyc. You go on there, you type in your address, it's going to tell you who your NCO is and when that next meeting is. Encourage people to get out there. We don't want to see the same faces. Everybody here probably goes to meetings all the time. We want you to get out there, get people to go come to this meeting. That aren't here today, come out into their neighborhood, get involved, and as the commissioner said, get to know those cops that are back. So please, get on it. Yeah, all our NCOs are back. When this meeting breaks up, go and say hello. Get to know them. That's who stood up, was the NCO. Get to know those cops. You can't meet them today, go on that website, get into that meeting, and get to know that one-to-one. That's how we get better.
All right, thanks, Terry. And it's good to ask these questions in this forum, absolutely. But at the Build the Block meetings, you get to meet the NCOs, and you get to meet the steady sector cops. And those are the people that are out there every day answering those 911 jobs and providing police services. So it's important that you go to those meetings. We've been doing them now for almost a year. And some of them are well attended. We've had a couple down in the 4-2 where we've had 400 people come up to one sector meeting. Some of them not so well attended. We want to make sure that we get as many people as possible to go to those meetings. All right, the next question is today is April 3rd. And throughout the United States, a campaign was placed in social media as Attack Muslim Day. what precautions are being done to support our inner city Muslim communities? Thank you for this question. We became aware of this many weeks ago, and since that, we've had all of our community affairs, we've had our intel people, we've had precinct commanders, our NCOs reach out to all the mosques and to Muslim communities throughout New York City to let them know that we were there to help support them and get them through this day. So far, I spoke to Inspector Miller before I came up here. There were no incidents in New York City. And this is what we need to do. Everything that we're talking about tonight is building trust. Building trust in your police department. Because we are here, we exist to help keep you safe. And again, that relationship has to be maintained. We're far from perfect. Stand up here and readily admit that. There's 36,000 of us. We come from society. Once in a while, you see some bad things on TV or the newspaper, and that shouldn't be reflective of the whole police department. Because by and large, the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of people come on this job to do the right thing and to make a difference and to help keep people safe. And that's the message that we have to get out as a police department. This way you can trust us to make sure that whatever problem you bring to us, that we're going to solve that problem with you. And whatever it is, it's blocked driveways, it's noise, it's drug dealing, whatever that issue is, as long as we know about it, we can come up with a solution together. And if we don't, we have to be taken to task. We have to hold our feet to the fire. Because we have these jobs to keep you safe. All right, next question. All right, what can be done about the excessive loud music coming from apartments on Webb Avenue and farther sides of the place, from restaurants on East Fordham Road and Fordham Landing Park? I think that's the 5-2 also. Pete, you got a mic right there.
Follow me around, Mike. That's our Centro. It's up on our west end of Fordham Road. I guess you've all seen how Centro has developed into a little bit of a nightlife situation. We deploy up there at the beginning of the night, mostly on clubs, all along that day. Now the noise is very difficult with the new laws and all that, that you have to abide by them. We can't go in there, we have gone in there, NCOs have helped out, fans have helped out. We set up we give them a heads up. We go in there with our sound leader, we tell them, hey look, this is the level you gotta keep at, unless you wanna get enforced or be summoned to having fines. We try to set that tone up for them, give them a chance. If it continues and it persists, and please, like the commissioner said, like Chief Monahan said, come to our build-a-block, let us know. This is something I haven't seen, even though noise is our top complaint probably in the precinct, but this is something I haven't seen specifically towards the clubs. It's mostly, again, from apartments, it's mostly street noise from cars. Again, I encourage you to come again to the build-a-block. We have an excellent precinct community council meeting. Brenda lets it rip. We stay there for about 2 to 3 hours. Tonight, we answer all sorts of questions, and we make sure everybody gets their questions answered. But before, like I said, before we summon and enforce, we like to give them a little leeway first. We tell them what decibel that they can have at. We show them all the sound.
All right, thanks, Pete. All right, next question is about Bailey houses. At Bailey houses, we don't have enough security cameras. A resident was attacked and sexually assaulted in August of 2017. Also, we have a homeless shelter. The roof door is always open. We did a tour with Councilman Samuels, and it looked like a crime scene. Pretty graphic. I'm not going to read that. We need cameras there. There's a 2663 there. Is that 5'2", 5'0"? 5'2"? Who said that? Terry O'Toole? No. See on the 5'0". Thanks, Pete. Again, it's 2663 feet. Cameras is always a hot topic in the precinct. The local politicians are the ones who give the money towards the police department. And we establish locations, based on trends and crimes about where they're being
have to probably liaison a little bit better with housing to see, where they need those cameras, and if they can help us support and get those cameras for us. Again, if you can see us after in the NCOs, after this is myself, we can definitely get more into what we're talking about. If you have an entity where you're NYPD, and the funds that are given through the police department to us, but it's always a hot topic, and I'm pretty sure the question will come up again many times tonight.
All right, thanks, PG. So I have a question here. It's 2757 Claflin Avenue. Is that the 5-0? Terry knows all. That's the answer to the question. It's just about security in general, I think, right? But you want to just ask the question directly to Inspector O'Toole?
When they're rezoning, it's kind of confusing. 5052. So we're a little.
You're going to stay in 5-0?
I know.
You're going to stay in 5-0 with me? I'm the NCO for the 5-0 right now. Next week, we're going to start with the NCO program. It's going to roll out next Monday night, and then we'll have three NCOs plus one NCO per county, and we'll have the state sector officers and response officers. So we'll be able to help you out. And you get over it.
We had a shooting on Strong, between Strong University.
Yes.
And I'm so confused because I think it was 5-2.
No, it was the 5-0. That was in the 5-0. That was basically a gang-motivated type shooting. We affected a number of arrests on that, and the perpetrator who shot the person was under arrest.
Thanks, sir. All right, so the next question is kind of a long one. It's the Congressman Espaillat and I did a tour of our district on East 198th Street. Our business owners were so impressed to see a congressman go door to door. Did you write this question? Store owners expressed they never saw an elected. You sure you did write this question? They come to ask what they wanted to address. They want public safety addressed at 198 near Valentine. Saying it's a big crime issue in the area, drugs and prostitution. Together we all need to join forces to get rid of drugs and crime at each 198, especially since nearly 2,000 seniors will be living in this area. Inspector Johnson, want to talk about that? Want to talk about narcotics enforcement at 198 Valentine?
Thank you. Good evening. Inspector Publicado does a great job of identifying the areas that are problems and the gangs and crews. And what we do is we work with them. We send out undercover police officers. You'll never see them, but they're out there. And then you'll see what everybody likes to know as the DTs. They swoop in, and then they grab these guys that are doing the drugs. Like I said, Inspector Publicado does wonderful work identifying these guys for us. And that's with this precision policing that we utilize now. That's what we do. We go to locations like 198, Valentine, and other locations in your precinct, in the 5-0, 5-2, and in the 4-6, and we go after these perpetrators who are bringing down property values and just making the area not safe.
All right, thanks Andy. While there are no foot patrols on Fordham Road, we're getting back to neighborhood policing, the well-known beat cop, and why there's so few people patrolling on foot and so many in cars. Fordham Road is overwhelmed with illegal vendors, food, phone, social services, three-car lines, etc. Didn't see that in a long time. They block stores, hydrants, and train entrances. How do NCOs engage with neighborhood residents from the City Patrol car? So I think Fordham, if I remember correctly, Fordham Road is kind of the split between the 5-2 and the 4-6, and the 4-8. So Inspector Randall will answer that question.
Thank you for bringing that question to us tonight. First of all, I know I've been working with Wilma and Fordham Bit. We've been working together, and in fact, I had explained to her that we've been conducting a couple of operations on Fordham. We have done a couple of three-car Nazis operations connection with several arrests. Matter of fact, we had, so far the number is 4 with about 3 arrests. We're car montes. We also illegal vendors. We have consistently and sent the NCO over there to arrest these individuals that are having an illegal license. In fact, last Friday I was with the 4 to 12 police officers of the 4 to 12, and we effected an arrest on that specific afternoon, and we arrested an individual. I will continue to ensure that more NCOs and also the officers are more in territories of Fordham Road and ensure to address these conditions that are concerns to you. And thank you for that question. Thank you.
Yes, Inspector. All right, so that, I'm sure we have to have more questions than this. So why don't we just open this up? Those are the questions that were handed in. We got more here? Anyway, we got about 20 times more. There we go. You tricked me. All right, so drug and gang violence needs to stop on the corner of 196 and Bridge. We need to have stop and frisk back. That also includes the D train station. We need to have more police officers patrol the neighborhood. So just let me talk about stop and frisk a little bit. That peaked back in 2011, about 600,000 stops citywide. If we're going to build trust with the people who want to protect and serve, that's not how you do it. Last year we had a little Last year we had about 11,000 citywide, so we went down from 600,000 to 11,000, and we continue to push crime down each and every year. So we have to make sure that, and Chief Monahan and Chief Dermot make sure they do this every Thursday morning at CompStat. We talk about where the issues are, where the violence is, and what we're doing about it specifically. We have to make sure that whatever summary enforcement, whatever enforcement we're doing, has some connection to the crime and the violence, and that's how we're going to continue to push it down. You had some questions about the D train station. I'm assuming that's either Bedford Park or Kingsbridge Road in my old days in Transit District 11. We have Inspector Chris Cole here. You want to talk about those 2 stations, Chris?
Hello, how you doing? Chris Cole, Bronx Transit. In the Fire 2 precinct of Transit, we've got an increase of these sleeping passenger crime. That was something that affected us last year. Right now, we're in the process of rolling out our neighborhood policing in the Fire 2 precinct, District 11. We opened up yesterday with District 12, which covers the other precincts, 440, 4143, 4547, 4849. And hopefully by the end of the spring, we'll have our neighborhood policing with our NCOs in the zone, just in the 5-2 precinct alone, to address those concerns.
All right, thanks, Chris. All right, this question goes a little bit wider than the police department, so I'm going to have some of the electeds jump in on this. I believe that crime is directly related to the economic health of the neighborhood. For example, living conditions, clean streets, access to medical, jobs. What can be done to improve these things in the Bronx? Policing is essential, but the economic health of neighborhoods is better. What can be done to improve the Bronx quality of life? I don't know if, Congressman?
We're working hard to, as you know, my office is open on Fordham Road right there and Grand Concourse. Max is my office manager there at my local Bronx office. And so there are issues of, if you have any issues of housing, jobs, we've held several job fairs throughout the district. I know the borough president has worked hard in bringing unemployment down to single digits in the Bronx. I think it's 6%, is it now? 6%. So it's still very high, but it's much lower than it was before. But if you have any issues with housing, if you have any issues with the local hospitals, Montefiore is in my district, Harlem Hospital is in my district, North General is in the district, New York Presbyterian, Mount Sinai. So if you have any issues with health or related matters, you can come to our office and address them to Max Javier and Cespedes, Orlando Cespedes, who work, he's to my right, who work at my local Bronx office. Okay, much more needs to be done, and we're working very hard with the borough president and the elected officials here in the Bronx to bring it back. I think the Bronx is on the right track to come back, but we got to continue to push, and that's why we're having this meeting. And I hope to continue to have these types of meetings with the Commissioner of Health, also the education is going to be an issue that we're going to take up here in the Bronx, and we hope to bring the chancellor, the new chancellor, to the Bronx, so parents should come and speak to him and her, and all of you can talk to the chancellor as well. Si ustedes tienen algunas preguntas o quejas de vivienda, de salud, de seguridad pública, Máximo Javier es que dirige nuestra oficina aquí en el Bronx, que está en Forum Road con Grand Concourse. Así que están bienvenidos todos a participar. Oh yeah, we'll be help welcome our new elected officials that came here. Vanessa Gibson, Councilwoman Vanessa Gibson. Councilman Cohen from the neighborhood as well, and of course, Assemblyman Dinowitz. Thank you for coming over. Commissioner.
All right, it's a kind of a long one. It's a two-part question. We live in a violent culture with too much gun violence, but also an economy based on selling guns and weapons. What will Congressman Espaillat do to ensure gun control and to reduce the violence that the U.S. promotes and profits from around the world?
Unfortunately,
hold on one second. Oh, a little bit more here. Right. My 14-year-old daughter took a sign for the March for Our Lives. I brought it for Congressman Espaillat. It says, "One child is worth more than all the guns on earth."
That's a great question, and thank you. Unfortunately, there was another shooting today that took 4 lives. So this is an epidemic, right? I think that we need to get rid of semi-automatic weapons. Nobody has any business carrying a war weapon with them. We need to have a stronger background checks. Of course, New York State has strong gun laws, and that's why you see also a major dip in those type of crimes. Handguns, nobody's really talking, everybody's talking about the AR-15 and the semi-automatic weapon, but it's handguns that do most of the killings in New York City and urban cities like New York. And so we got to address that as well. I have a piece of legislation that I introduced that is a registry for persistent gun offenders. If you have the right to know if there is a sexual predator in your building, you should have the right to know that there's somebody in your building that's been a persistent violent gun offender that will put your family in jeopardy. The police will know, the neighborhood will know, and that's a piece of legislation that I've introduced, as well as a piece of legislation against ghost guns. Those are those kids that are sent and they assemble the guns in their homes and they circumvent the background checks, and they should also be subjected to those background checks. But this is an epidemic, and unless we come together, and obviously our children, right, have already led us in that direction, we will continue to witness these horrific shootings across the country.
Thanks, Congressman. There's actually a bill right now. It's the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. I spoke about it on 60 Minutes about a month ago. Cy Vance, the Manhattan DA, and I went down to Washington to talk about it. And it's, I guess the easiest explanation is it's a lowest common denominator bill. If I live in a state where the gun laws are lax and the licensing is certainly not as good as it is in New York State, that means that if this bill passes, that if I'm licensed to carry a concealed handgun in a state that doesn't have laws as good as New York State, now I can carry that gun in New York State. And it's something that if it passed the House, believe it or not, and now it's in the Senate, I don't think it's going to pass in the Senate. And if it does, it's going to put all New Yorkers at risk. If you could somehow take the time to write your congressman, write elected officials, and tell them that you're opposed to this law. We don't need more guns in New York City. Without a doubt, we don't need more guns. The Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. Right, and there's actually a part 2 to this question. How can the NYPD, the DA, and the elected officials support a cure violence model in the 5-2 precinct? We have cure violence in parts of Brooklyn and parts of Queens. It is helping us reduce the violence. Vanessa, you want to talk about that from the elected officials' perspective?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much to everyone for coming out. I am Councilmember Vanessa Gibson, and I'm proud to represent the 16th District in the Bronx, in the West Bronx, and I want to thank our Congressman, Adriano Espaillat, and his team for hosting us tonight, and certainly this beautiful church. So a few years ago, in 2011, the City Council started a Cure Violence program. And it's based on a Chicago model that looks at gun violence from a holistic perspective. Not just deploying more police officers in areas where you have high concentrations of violence, but looking at the source and the root causes of why young adults engage in violence in the first place. So when we started in 2011, we looked at 5 neighborhoods across the city of New York. And I'm so proud to say, in 2018, years later, we are in 18 different neighborhoods. All throughout the Bronx, it goes by precinct. So we have a full cure violence program in the 4-0, the 4-2, the 4-4, 4-6, and 4-8 precinct. And last year, our mayor announced that we are getting a full program in the 5-2 precinct. A full program means $500,000. It means focusing on summer youth, therapeutic services, mental health, social services, and programs for families, for grandparents raising their grandchildren, youth, education, and we work with different providers. So I'm just going to throw out some names in case you recognize any of these organizations, because they are currently receiving funds through the City Council, through the Mayor's office, in the New York City Crisis Management System. Save Our Streets, Good Shepherds, Bronx Rising Against Gun Violence, Standing Up to Violence, Bronx Connect. These are organizations that are on the ground. They have violence interrupters, they have mediators, hospital responders, and their goal is to work with young people who are at risk, but any young person. They give jobs, they offer mentoring opportunities. Their goal is not just to be reactionary after there's a shooting, but to prevent shootings and violence in the first place. So I'm very grateful that we're going to get it here in the 5-2 this year. Thank you.
I knew you were going to have the answer to that one. Thanks, Vanessa. The next question is, how can we have better illumination, better light on our business corridor? It looks like specifically on Kingsbridge Business Corridor. So I think that's, I don't know if any of the electeds want to talk about that, or Pete, but that's probably something you can take up with your NCOs, because the NCOs, they're charged with a lot of things. And many things that they get involved in might not necessarily require NYPD resources. It might be beyond that. So the NCOs can connect you to resources in the city that might help with the problem. Pete, has this issue come up before?
First time I'm hearing it for the Kingsbridge. Again, you have the opportunity with the building blocks to come to these meetings and, and get this kind of information out with us. Now, we do have this situation up on Golden Street where they're asking for a light tower. We can do that. We can get a temporary fill. We can get a light tower over there. I know the problem. I know it's very dark. I know the cars get broken into. A lot of older residents don't feel too comfortable walking in the dark to their buildings. But currently right now, our NCO Charlie is currently working on getting a tower over there. So this is good information to get out. This is also probably a good temporary or a quick solve until we can get something more permanent there.
All right, thanks, Pete. All right, next question is from somebody on Briggs Avenue. What can we do to see people with pets, to force them to clean up after their pets? I don't think it would be a community meeting if we didn't have that question at least once Again, that's an issue that you should take up with your neighborhood coordination officers, NCOs. If it's a persistent problem, I'm sure they'll be able to help you out with that. And more police activity at train stations, especially from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m., for example. So what we did in the Transit Bureau is we reinstituted late night train patrol. We took 150 cops citywide. They're going to be doing train patrol from, I think it's from 10 o'clock at night to 6 o'clock in the morning. So when you take the train early in the morning, especially people going to work very early, you should see police officers on those trains. They're not going to be on every train. There's just hundreds and hundreds of trains that run all throughout the night, but you should see more police officers on trains when you're going to work early in the morning. And we have a question in Spanish, and I'm going to ask Assistant Chief Fausto Pichardo to take care of this one. Thank you, Fausto.
Buenas noches. La pregunta es, ¿qué podríamos hacer para evitar o controlar escándalos en edificios tarde de la noche, hookahs en la calle o fumar o sustancias no permitidas? Es bien sencillo. Al final de la noche, detrás, en el último asiento de atrás, tienen dos maneras. Hay oficiales que están dedicados a diferentes calles y cuadras y vecindarios dentro de un precinto. Y le pedimos que antes de que usted salga de aquí, por favor, ubíquese, conozca a su policía para que le diga explícitamente qué hora, cuáles son los delitos para que ellos lo puedan ayudar. Sorry. It was nice working in the New York City Police Department. The question was, you know, what can we do on or about the streets in front of buildings into the wee hours of the evening when folks are smoking hookahs or smoking drugs or other substances, illegal substances in the street? And the response is, listen, we have in the back, do yourselves a favor, get to know your neighborhood coordination officers, get to know your steady sectors officers, and form that relationship. And look at them and let them know explicitly what is going on. If it's a pressing matter, obviously we'll call 911. But let them know the times so they can work around their schedules and address those conditions to get them resolved for you.
Wise guy kids. So what is the position of the NYPD on the ban of rogue motorcycle drivers and ATV drivers that run rampant on the streets and against every motor vehicle rule? I know, Larry, if you want to talk about that, or Terry Monahan, you want to talk about that? All right. Chief DeCunin, he's the Borough Commander in the Bronx.
Good evening, Larry DeCunin, Bronx Borough Commander. This is a problem that kind of crops up as the weather gets warm, as we all know. We have two dynamics actually going on. We have bicycles. We have roving bands of bicycles. This is something that started within the last 6 months or so. And now we have the motorcycles and ATVs. We have initiatives. There are certain parts of the borough where it's more prevalent than others. We have initiatives every weekend. What we try to do is we try to utilize strategies where we get them when they form up. We want to stop them from getting together in mass and then starting to ride and wreak havoc all over the city. So we've been very successful. As a matter of fact, this past weekend, we had an initiative on Saturday and Easter Sunday. The Commissioner talks about officers that miss a holiday. Unfortunately, they do, but that's part of the job. We had a lot of officers and supervisors in on Easter Sunday to address a ride-out. And the officers did the same thing. We know we get intelligence. We have other bureaus that help us out. They give us intelligence about where this is going to happen. So there's a lot of preparation involved in this, a lot of strategy, and a lot of operational resources. So the short answer is yes, we're putting together initiatives each weekend to address both the bicycles and the motorcycles. And we confiscate a lot of motorcycles and ATVs. And that's how we can really get to them. We take their bikes, the motorcycles and ATVs, we really put a dent in a lot of that activity. We also get help from highway, aviation, so the entire department backs us up, a lot of resources, and we're doing a lot in that area to combat that problem.
Commissioner, one
Sure,
second.
absolutely.
I'm Councilmember Cohen. I want to thank you because I worked closely with the department trying to develop a piece of legislation that we did pass with the aid of our public safety chair in the city council in my first term that made confiscation of those of the ATVs and the dirt bikes a little easier for the department. It made that process a little easier. So I want to thank you. And I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to, I really have great commanding officers in the 50th, the 5-2, and the 4-7. So I just want to make sure you heard that from me. So thank you.
Thank you. They tell me that every time I see them.
Well, they're right.
Fausto, need your help again.
¿Cómo conseguimos ayuda para una vivienda? Porque estoy viviendo con 4 hijos en un cuarto. Es en verdad, si pueden, el que escribió esa pregunta, que el problema en la situación lo lamentamos, pero acérquese con nuestro policía o también con el congresista o uno de sus asistentes para que le pueda ayudar. And the question was, how do I go about getting an apartment? I'm living with 4 kids inside 1 room. And so the congressman and his staff, as well as the local elected officials, will try their very best to help out with that concern. ¿Qué se puede hacer con los que fuman marihuana dentro del edificio? La bulla de los que viven con música muy alta hasta las 4 de la mañana es muy incómodo. Uno llama a la policía, pero sigue la misma bulla y fumando frente a los apartamentos. Bueno, le pidemos, como le dije anteriormente, que si ven un delito, un crimen, que por favor llamen 911. Si están fumando en el pasillo y si están en una área que es pública, lo podemos ayudar en ese término. Pero si es un apartamento adentro privado, también déjenos saber, porque tenemos investigadores de la división de narcóticos que trabajan muy bien haciendo sus investigaciones. Pero al final de la noche les suplico que hay varios policías, si no yo me quedo hasta el fin, para ponernos en contacto con una persona, con unos policías, para que lo puedan ayudar y que busquen la manera de cómo resolver los problemas, porque nadie tiene que vivir en esas condiciones. The question is, what can we do for folks who are smoking marijuana inside of a building? They're making loud music due to loud noise due to music at the wee hours of the morning, and sometimes when we call the police about them smoking marijuana inside of the apartments, nothing is done. So again, to that end, we implore you, please know your neighborhood coordination officers. If you have sensitive or confidential or intelligence information, let us know in private, because we have outstanding investigators supervised by Inspector Johnson from the Narcotics Division that will be able to help you out to that end. Yes?
El problema es que nosotros llamamos, lo que tenemos los problemas en el vecindario, en el video, y los que nos contestan que si tienen armas y si están peleando, entonces ¿cómo vamos a resolver el problema?
Usted sabe que me ve a mí o dos otros oficiales. ¿En qué precinto usted vive? ¿El 52 o el 50?
Aquí vivo el 52.
El 52, ok. Pues yo me voy a quedar hasta el fin y voy a buscar 1, 2 o 3 de esos policías y como el comandante lo vamos a resolver ese problema para que tengan contacto directo.
Porque no llegan, si nos están matando, nos matan y no llegan nunca al bolsillo.
Vamos a tratar, gracias por su pregunta y vamos a tratar lo más posible, ya esta noche le vamos a resolver ese problema, ¿ok? I think we found the person that wrote the question.
I am concerned about the very large building being built at Marion and 195 to house mentally ill individuals and how that may affect the security of this neighborhood. Can you comment? Pete, you want to talk about that? I don't know if you had any meetings about it yet, or if you haven't. what your plan would be?
Again, first off, we're very NCO heavy here. We would definitely go over there, even myself, to start off with the initial meeting of this building. Has not come to me yet. I haven't seen it yet as a problem. Again, we have very open avenues that you can come, approach the offices. We publish their email addresses. We have their telephone numbers. We have our building block again meetings quarterly, and we have our precinct community council meeting where you can definitely find me at. Again, how I would initially approach that is definitely make some kind of contact with the building owner or the management to see what can be done, see what the concerns are. But I also have to meet with the complainant. I got to see, what are the concerns in the neighborhood, and again, we have avenues where you can meet us. We're available. Please contact us. This is a new problem for me. So again, it's a concern, and you got to come see us. You got to come see us. It's going to take us a while to see something like this, but if we have your first-hand knowledge, we can definitely do something and establish some kind of liaison with the building and see what we can do about securing that building for you.
All right, thanks, Pete. This is kind of a long one. I'm going to try to shorten it up a little bit. This is from somebody over on Fordham Hill Oval. I almost got hit by two speeding pickup trucks last June while crossing the street at the light. They both were on the wrong side of the road. Too many cars speed up and run through the light when it turns red. See it all the time. Is this a problematic intersection, I'm assuming, over by Fordham Oval? Okay. All right, thank you. Want to talk about it?
Fordham and Centro. Well, you got construction over there too. We had construction there with the scaffolding off the corner. It leads off to Deegan. Centro goes, it's again one of the heartbeats that goes north to south. Big intersection. Enforcement, doing outstanding over there. It's one of our collision-prone locations. We give it a lot of attention during the day and during the business hours. But again, very congested. Fordham Road is a difficult road to maintain. We do our best at it. It's our number one thoroughfare in the precinct, especially that corner that you're talking about. There are some speed lights on there already, red lights on there. You do have cameras along Central Avenue to deter it. Again, there was construction there. We hit it with a couple of re-engineering ideas that we submitted to the DOT. It's a work in progress, and it's a difficult, like I said, it's a difficult roadway corner to maintain. I think we've done everything on our end. I think it's more, there's got to be some form of an engineering process to make that street a little bit more travelable, a little bit more easy to get through. We have submitted that paperwork, and our enforcement's on spot. The only thing I can say is we're going to see if we can keep on doing a better job and keep at it. Again, if you'd like to see me afterwards, you have the NCOs in back here. I believe that's Sector Adam. Sector Adam? There they are. So please, you can see them about it. You can see me about it. But our enforcement's on 10 point, and Fordham Road is definitely the thoroughfare that we're on top of. But there's a lot going on. We're trying our best.
The last two questions I asked you about when I asked you, what has to happen in order for more cameras to be made available, and what measures can be made in order to punish the drivers who run the red lights? That's where I was focusing on.
I didn't get to the last couple of questions yet. So, I didn't forget about it. What has to happen to punish these drivers? Well, we also what happened out in Brooklyn a couple of weeks ago, right? Out in the 7A precinct, where a woman ran a red light. She ran over two young children and a mother. And she had a history of running red lights and speeding. But unfortunately, these were all as a result of cameras, red light cameras and speeding cameras. So the summons was actually given to the car, was given to the vehicle, because you don't know who's driving. So I know there's legislation being written now to try to rectify that, to make sure we can connect the vehicle with the driver, and if there's a certain number of violations in a certain amount of time, that the registration is going to be suspended. Now the issue is to get the person responsible for that car to pay the price and suspend the registration. I don't know if any of the electeds want to talk about that at all.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Representative Jeffrey Dinowitz. First, the cameras. Anybody ever get a speeding ticket on a camera? Oh, come on, admit it, you did. Some of you did. We need more of those cameras for speeding and for red lights. Those cameras are authorized by Albany, by the legislature and the governor. In the Assembly, we have tried to increase the number of these speeding cameras. I know people who get the tickets really hate them, but they make a big difference. When somebody gets a speeding ticket from a camera, which essentially means you got it's the equivalent of a parking ticket, most people don't get a second ticket because they learn their lesson. And by the way, if you go down on Bailey Avenue towards Kingsbridge Road, there's one of those cameras. Guess who never got a second ticket from a camera? The point being that we've tried to authorize more cameras in Albany. The Assembly has passed legislation to do so, and a couple of people in the other house, I won't name names, none of them are here, have blocked it. But it's really important. They make a difference in saving lives. They slow people down, and the proof is that I believe the city has indicated that it's actually generated less revenue this year than the previous year, and that means fewer people are getting the speed camera tickets because people are learning the lesson. It's not meant to be a cash cow. It's meant to increase safety. The same thing is true with red lights, but the commissioner is correct in that if you get tickets multiple times, and there are some people who do, they're not moving violations because the ticket goes against the car. So I think we need to examine ways to create penalties if there are multiple tickets. Problem being, different people can be driving the car. But the bottom line is those cameras have saved lives. There is no question about it, and we need to increase the number. And we're going to continue to work in Albany to increase those numbers. We just got to get cooperation from the state Senate.
Okay, the last three questions, unless the congressman has a whole lot more. No, the last three are actually in Spanish, so Fausto, I need your help once again.
Hay mucho delito en el edificio 197 y 220 de Briggs y Valentine. El 197, 198, vació la bodega que cogió fuego y mucha droga. Necesitamos, por favor, la ayuda con la comunidad. So the question is, Pete, maybe you can help me out. So 197 at Briggs, building numbers 197, 198, 94 through 99. There was a fire. Looks like there's some drug activity in front of the location in the building, and they're just looking for a little help with that.
Yes, that sounds more something we can handle, a quality of life situation. Glad you put me, made it known to me. Again, we work very steady with the narcotics and the investments work part. Again, Andy Johnson is up here talking. Reassure, we're way ahead of this problem already. Way ahead of this problem. And, you know, I can't say much about it. But then again, one day we'll be able to explain it a lot about what happened. And hopefully a lot of good success will come to this area that you're talking about. But again, we're very close. He's got the greatest detectives working for him. Again, hand in hand, every week, talking about exactly what you're doing in the area that you're talking about. Now, the area of this fire, unfortunately, causes a little bit more of a quality of life issue. I think that's something we can handle a little bit more ourselves. But I assure you, again, Andy Johnson's detectives is doing a great job precisely about the area that you've been talking about all night. 194, Valentine, Briggs, 97, and 98. Success is coming.
walk 498th Street with him, the owners of the business were so proud of him. They were stunned that they actually saw an elected official going door to door to each business on 198th Street. I've lived in this neighborhood for over 40 years. I'm going to challenge you guys. You're working on it, I know. But I want a deadline date that the drugs are going to come off on 198th Street and Gallery. I want a date, and I want it now. I don't want to wait 4 years.
You heard it, Pete. I'll be tipping my hand.
Para contestar la pregunta, el inspector Fioredo, que es el comandante del cuartel 52, primeramente le damos las gracias por esa pregunta. Y él sabe íntimamente todo lo que está sucediendo ahí. Y sabemos que es un problema grande, pero él está seguro que en el futuro, si Dios quiere pronto, van a ver lo que va a suceder en esa área. Gracias por esa pregunta. Es permitido tener un picnic enfrente de los edificios, poner una juca cuando están y fumarla en el medio de la calle, cuando las pompas de agua están abiertas y los niños están jugando. ¿Y por qué no hay rondas de policía más a menudo por la calle? Me siento insegura. Bueno, abrir la puerta y el departamento de DEP que protegen el clima y el invierno, ¿verdad? Y si hay áreas, sabemos que el verano se pone caliente. El departamento de bomberos también dan ciertas tapas para que solamente salga un poquito de agua, porque obviamente si hay un fuego grande. Por lo tanto, el fumar la juca en la calle no es algo que es ilegal precisamente la juca, pero dependiendo de qué está sucediendo en esa área, puede ser un incidente que se puede tomar una decisión que tal vez está causando un problema grande. Entonces la pedimos que lo vea al final de esa sesión. Y las rodadas de policía, bueno, hay muchos grupos aquí de detectives e investigadores que están haciendo, que sea pandillas, narcóticos y cuánta cosa. Y lo que sucede alguna vez es que quizás no se ve hoy, o quizás no se ve mañana, o pasado mañana, pero las investigaciones alguna vez se cogen 2 meses, 6 meses y algunas veces desafortunadamente 1 año. Y como oyeron al principio, la fiscal y el comisionado hablar, que había una ganga que estaba haciendo mucho problema y homicidio y tiroteo y vendiendo droga en esta calle. Y esa investigación coge un poco de tiempo, pero asegúrense que el departamento de policía trabajando con la fiscal, los electos y todos los otros que gobiernan esta área y la comunidad, obviamente, están haciendo lo mejor que pueden hacer. The question is it allowed to have like a picnic in front of a building while people are smoking hookahs, opening the fire hydrants in the summertime, full blown, while the kids are playing in the middle of the street, and why there are no more gang roundups by the police department? Opening fire hydrants is a violation. The fire department offers a program during the summer. They have specific caps for our fire hydrants. So anyone who is opening a fire hydrant, it is illegal. You can call 311, talk to your local precinct officers, the fire department, and the Department of Environmental Protection. The second part is, as you heard earlier in the evening, and I think you spoke for yourself, the district attorney and some other guests up here spoke about gang roundups and sometimes the investigations and the process and what happens, as was noted with an earlier gang that was prone to homicides, murders, and shootings in the local area. ¿Qué se puede hacer para denunciar a una persona que recibe marihuana como medicina, pero se lo da a sus hijos para usarla y venderla? Y el tren de Kingsbridge y Fordham Road usan pasajes y grabándoles y le cobran $2 para pasar los pasajeros. Primeramente, con la primera pregunta, por favor, el que escribió esa pregunta, obviamente es algo bien serio. Déjenos saber al final, para así nosotros poder hablar con los detectives en privado y cómo vamos a mejorar ese problema sobre eso, porque no queremos niños que estén utilizando drogas de ninguna forma. Y la segunda parte, que el inspector que está aquí representando el distrito de tránsito sabe lo que está sucediendo en
policía, como dijo el comisionado, que hay más oficiales y policías en los trenes durante las horas de la noche y también durante el día. Entonces, ese problema específicamente, el inspector de tránsito Tamola sabe lo que está sucediendo ahí y están haciendo su parte por ello. Question is, what can you do to report when someone who is receiving marijuana for medicinal purposes and instead takes that marijuana and gives them to their children so they can use it and or sell it? And the second part was on the D train on Kingsbridge and Porter Road, folks are selling swipes or selling fares for $2, and sometimes that turns into a robbery and so forth.
So with the marijuana question, we can bring that to Inspector Johnson, especially if it depends on how much they're receiving. The distribution is worrisome, so if there's a specific person that you're concerned about, maybe you can talk to your NCO, you can talk to Inspector Johnson at the end of the meeting. And as far as selling the swipes on the D train, Chris, I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yes, on the BD line, you do have issues with swipers. These are the guys that hang around for turnstiles. They get you for $1 or $2 to go through. They damage the machines. That way you can't get your Metro card. And it's just something we're very concerned about. And we keep a record book of them. We have a log book of them. We know where our known swipers are. In fact, the person who asked that question, if you want to meet me, and I have a special operations lieutenant from District 11, Lieutenant Evans here tonight also. If you want to meet me after the meeting, he may give you a little information about specific times. We have our officers out there addressing, again, more serious crimes. They have disputes with the people who are using the subways. Sometimes they have disputes amongst each other. They need to slash into the robberies. So we're very concerned about that and something that we'll address immediately.
All right, so I think this is the last question. And before I read the question, I'd just like to thank Lieutenant Perez and everybody from Community Affairs that are here tonight. Thank you for everything you do every night. Lloyd was a police officer in the 404 when I was the CEO way back when I ended here. So this is I'm going to let Chief Monahan answer this question. Is there a plan to give the NCOs a dress down uniform like community affairs to make them more people friendly in appearance? Hey, can you back up? Can you stand up again? There could be more people friendly back there.
The answer to that question is absolutely not. The whole concept is we want every cop, everyone wearing a blue uniform to be approachable. These cops are out there enforcing the law, keep people safe. We want you to look at them, look at every cop that's out on the street the same. There really can't be a distinction. These are the nice cops, and those are the other cops. Every cop is human. Every cop, community affairs, NCO, second cop, response cop has one distinct personality. Get to know that personality. Get to know them more than just a blue uniform. Get to know them as a person.
All right, so I'm going to turn it back over to Congressman Espaillat. Adriano.
Please give a round of applause to our Police Commissioner. Police Commissioner O'Neill. Thank you for your question. Before you leave, Brian, we're going to continue to work with the police department and the local police precincts. I know we got a lot of questions about Briggs Avenue, about Valentine Avenue, Kingsbridge, Landing Road, the shelter there. We're going to be working with the local commanders to follow up on those questions. We would like perhaps for the 52 to go to Landing Road and do a survey with us to see if we can improve lighting there in the shelter. They just opened a couple of days ago and we already have one resident, not too good. And then of course, marijuana. So the last question that came in late is sell marijuana on 194th Street, Briggs and Kingsbridge. Okay, so there's a problem on Briggs and Valentine's. We're going to address it. We're going to work with the police department. Thank you. Stay safe. Thank you, DA. Thank you, the elected official, Commissioner O'Neill. Thank you so much.